This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
What's up, champs? Welcome to another episode of the Short Shifts Fantasy Hockey Podcast, brought to you by Keeping Karlsson. I'm your host, Jeremy Rosillo, and joining me tonight after a bit of a hiatus, my pal and yours, Shams Benamor. Shams, how are you doing? How was your vacation? Long time no see.
Yeah, it's nice to be back. I think it's been basically a month because it's been like you out and I'm in, and then it turned the other way around. So nice to be back and have my computer set up and not trying to do fantasy, like a couple managing through a phone and a tablet. So nice to have my whole setup back and be ready for the, fight for the playoffs. I don't know about you, but like a couple matchup, it's like basically I think it's like from second to like 10th is like 2 wins apart each way. So basically it's still anyone's game for most of the spots in the playoffs.
I am fighting to make it into the relegation playoffs. My Cupful team is still 5th out of 16 in points for in Tier 1, but is now down at, I forget what the record was, but not in playoff contention. I'm actually teetering between 12th and 13th right now, so I need to make it into the top 12 just to stay in Tier 2 next year. But I've got other leagues. I'm a big proponent of continuing to stay active even when you can't make playoffs or can't win the league. You owe it to your other league mates, because if you give up or stop setting lines, it will affect other matchups and other people's outcomes in your league, and that's not very fun to go up against. So I know I'm committed to playing out the season, try to eke out a few more wins for the bragging rights. With that, let's get to the news. First of all, one of the players that we've talked a lot about on the various shows lately, Adam Fantilli, had a hat trick last night, including a shorthanded goal. He looks great in that top line ever since Sean Monahan went down. I do wonder what happens when Monahan and Boone Jenner return. Neither of them might be 100% depending on how the injuries are, but Columbus is looking like a potential playoff team. They're a great story. Is there enough room for all of these players to be fantasy relevant?
Oh, like honestly, in like 9 times out of 10, I would have said no. But like with the way the season's been going, sometimes you have to throw away the logic and just go with your eyes. I don't know what's up with this team, but everyone's scoring. I think like Kent Johnson has been doing well already. So it really depends on where the lines are. Obviously, if, whenever Monahan comes back, I don't think there's going to be any question about him getting the first line back. So it's going to be just maybe give a game or two just to see what the lines are once people start being healthy and give things. I wouldn't be, looking at this as like, for example, back when Barkov got hurt at the start of the season, Lundell got that top slot, and then the second Barkov came back, I'm like, oh, sure, time to cut Lundell. There's no way he's going to do anything. While it could happen where Fantilli gets a downgrade, obviously not being on that top, I don't think it's going to be an automatic drop depending on how deep your league is, because he could still be in a position to perform well.
Another piece of news, Timo Meier ended up down on the third line last game with Dawson Mercer and somebody Dowling, Justin Dowling maybe. That looked really scary, but then he ended up with 2 assists. The goals have kind of dried up. He hasn't scored in 10 games, but he is putting in about an assist every other game. Not what us early Meier drafters wanted. At this point, I think you kind of have to live with it. Any other advice other than, oh well?
Yeah, at this point, unless he gets like a really nice streak, I don't think you're going to get any trade value for him. So you might as well just hope that he keeps it up from there. You know, Mercer is not what we thought of, you know, back when he got drafted, but he's not chopped liver. So he's not with nobody, and then just kind of hope for the best that you get something from your draft pick for the rest of the year.
I actually did manage to trade Meier in a league. I think it was actually this morning the trade went through. I traded Meier for Joel Eriksson Ek, and my reasoning was I desperately need the games, and Eriksson Ek had 20 games left in his regular season, and Meier only had 18, including a 3-1 advantage this week for Eriksson Ek. I was also short a center in that league, so it kind of made sense. I still like Meier slightly in a vacuum, but I was just like so tired of Timo Meier, and I like Joel Eriksson Ek as a player, even though with Kaprizov coming back, he may be shooting the puck a bit less. So that's one potential Meier trade I made. You can let me know if you think I won or lost that trade in the chat. Next up, we've got a ton of injury news. Like, we're legitimately going to spend 10 or 15 minutes of the show on injuries. First one, kind of last minute. Jake Sanderson is out with a lower body injury and no news on the severity. Is that Chabot's job if Sanderson is out for a bit longer, or is there someone else in line first?
I believe it's Chabot's job, because right now I don't know. I'm not much of a prospect person, but other than like Zub, I think is the other person. Like, I don't know if really what it is if you have, I'm not saying Chabot is the best offensive player, but if you have one of the cold Senators, you better hope it's Chabot, because I don't know, unless they have some prospect that I'm not aware of that they could call up. He is probably the best offensive player. And then right now, it's not really looking great as just in general, because just the team has been cold in general. And then without Sanderson, this is just going to be one of those situations that I think it's honestly a downgrade for all, and then maybe at best even for Chabot. Just if the team was a little bit more warm, I could think that Chabot might be able to carry on and get a little bit of bump by playing with the stronger players. But at this point, it feels like all of the team is just having trouble scoring goals. So being on that top power play, I'm not sure how much of an added benefit it is for Chabot.
While you were talking, I did just check, and it does look like Tomas Chabot has the majority of the power play time. So he's on power play 1 currently, but also Ottawa hasn't scored through 2 periods. So power play 1 doesn't mean much if you don't get some points with it. Maybe he'll fix that in the next couple of days. Next up, another injury that could be kind of big. We'll go with 2 of them that could kind of be big. Jeremy Swayman is out with an upper body injury that apparently happened yesterday. Korpisalo is starting against the Sens tonight with DiPietro backing up. The coach was cautiously optimistic he'll be back soon. Their next game is Sunday against Colorado, and then they play Monday, Wednesday against Philly. Mix and match matchups there for Korpisalo. I'm not sure I really want to hold him for a Colorado matchup. That scares me. And if I can add another one on there for you, Markstrom is hurt. That one kind of looked serious. He got run into in a way that was eerily reminiscent of the collision that torpedoed Carey Price's career. I hope it's not that. So Jake Allen is going to be the majority starter. Which one of those 2 guys do you have more interest in, all things considered?
I guess it's really dependent on the situation. So just to add a little bit of information on Markstrom. Now, this is not confirmed, but Kevin Weeks is usually pretty good with like having some of the inside knowledge. It doesn't seem that from what he's saying that it's anything too serious. Now, we don't know how many weeks it's going to be or how long it's going to be, but it sounds like we have avoided possibly a like season ending injury. But with them not practicing today, we won't know the situation of how long Markstrom's going to be out. So that one's going to be a little bit of tough to kind of gauge without knowing. And then really where I come in is the kind of the interesting idea is with Boston, I'm with you. I would have, even if I had Korpisalo on my team for a stream, I'm not sure I'd keep him around all the way to Sunday for the Colorado start. But the interesting thing is that if you said that they have a Monday game, now I know he's just been kind of floating around and hasn't been doing much, but this is me going into my random goalie streams, is that I read a stat that DiPietro has been doing really well in the AHL. Obviously, we're talking about a different league, and most goalies are doing a lot better there than they would in the NHL. But depending on the matchup and the situation, that might be a sneaky stream on Monday to get with him if it's the back-to-back and he gets that. But with Allen, to go back onto the New Jersey side, I'm not really sure how much faith I have in Allen. If you're desperate and you're looking for possibly an everyday starter where, for example, in my categories league, I don't care about goals against, I'm just trying to get wins and saves. That might be a situation where the team kind of drags him along and you get some wins and he gets a decent amount of saves because, he's just going to get some starts. But if you're in a situation where you want the good rate stats, personally, I don't trust Allen. I would probably look elsewhere.
I think you make some salient points on both of them. I had not realized that DiPietro in the AHL has a 195 and a 929 through 22 games, which is pretty dang good. I actually have the same concern with Allen about potentially losing starts to the call-up. Nico Daws is kind of the goalie of the future in New Jersey. I'm assuming that's the call-up before Saturday. Also, as I mentioned with my Meier trade, New Jersey has less than the league median amount of games left in the regular season. They only play 9 games over playoffs, and Markstrom has some extra time to heal with the Four Nations, so I don't think, hopefully it doesn't go beyond that. I kind of don't see either of these guys as a must-hold or a must-add. Some more injury-outjury news. Just a quick update from 2 guys we talked about on Tuesday's show, or should I say, other people talked about on Tuesday's show. Noah Dobson has been given a week-to-week timetable. No power play units since then. I know they mentioned Pelech had the power play for the rest of the game, but the Islanders don't play until tomorrow, so we don't have any data there. And Drew Doughty has shed his no-contact jersey and should be back on this road trip, which runs for the next 5 games, starting this Saturday and ending next Saturday. So keep those guys in mind when planning out your streams. Bigger outjury news. Kirill Kaprizov and Jared Spurgeon both returned to the lineup today. They're both on power play 1. I don't think they've scored yet. I closed my scoreboard before we started the podcast, but Shams, you can let me know if you have anything to add here or if they've scored.
I don't believe they have scored yet, but the interesting thing to keep in mind is that while Rossi does lose that power play 1 slot with Kaprizov coming back, I'm still interested in him because we've got to keep in mind he has been on a hot streak or outperforming his draft stock for a long time. And the main power behind that was playing with Kaprizov and Zuccarello at even strength. So yes, if you're in a league where you need power play points, that's going to be a situation where you get a downgrade. But having Kaprizov back with Rossi is a big boon for him. And if, you're in a situation where you're maybe in a shower league and someone moved on from him, or he's at the bottom of your roster in those kind of situations, I would still be happy with Rossi, even without the power play time, just because you get to be with an elite player at even strength.
I agree. Marco Rossi has had a really good season so far, and I don't really think his point pace is going to slow down just because he's off the power play. I would be adding Jared Spurgeon if he's available to you. Game already started today, but he did have the Thursday, Saturday, Sunday schedule, which is always nice to have. And, power play 1 with Kaprizov is usually a good place to be, even if Brock Faber had not done much with it already this year. One more outjury, Tyler Toffoli returns, playing with Eklund and Celebrini, and on power play 1 in place of Zetterlund. Don't think there's much actionable here. Maybe drop Zetterlund if you had picked him up to stream, as opposed to him being more of a fringe roster guy for you. And finally, we've got a trio of injuries that I'm just going to throw all at you at once. We've got Matthew Knies left, no timetable, being evaluated today, but I haven't seen the results of that. This might mean more opportunity for McMann, because McMann's kind of stepped up when Tavares got hurt, and that could just prolong his relevance. Too bad they only play Saturday next week, and then 2 games, or Saturday this week, 2 games next week, and 3 busy days the week after, which is kind of a crappy streaming week anyway. So I don't even know if you get much use from adding Bobby McMann. Patrick Kane is also day-to-day, and Tarasenko took his spot on line 2 and power play 1. He does have an assist so far today, which is nice. And William Karlsson is week-to-week. He had honestly been doing nothing. I was going to put him as a snoozer today if he wasn't hurt. I would be cutting him if you don't have the IR space. It looks like his third-line replacement is Nicolas Waugh. Anybody else jump out at you that you should be adding with these injury news?
So I'll add to yours with the Karlsson situation, is that they've stacked the top 6 as much as you can with basically having Barbashev, Eichel, and Stowe together, and Olsen with Hurdle and Dorofiev. So there was times when you had 3 lines and a little bit of a spread out, but now with that setup, don't worry about trying to find space in Karlsson in your IR. And then additionally is that with Detroit, I think that's a little bit interesting, is that Tarasenko now gets to play with the Brinkat in even strength. They have a different center here or there on the second lines, but either way, the Brinkat's the main ad to get to play with. And with the power play 1 being really hot, playing with that as well, is that maybe I wouldn't be in a rush to get him this week because he only has 1 more game. However, they do play 4 times next week, with one of them being an off night. So one of those situations could be, a possible streamer for next week.
That's worth looking at. I do wonder if Patrick Kane may be returning the soonest of those 3 injuries, leaving Tarasenko a bit less relevant. With that, let's go to our ad break.
Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? You bet we are. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Scoring touchdowns is the key to winning in the playoffs, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple like a player to score 6. Go to DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. Or hey, you may be interested in hockey. I'm taking a look now at some hockey futures. The odds for the Vezina Trophy are crazy. They've got Connor Hellebuck minus 2,000. That's like basically they think Connor Hellebuck's going to run away with this. Of course, odds subject to change. The next lowest odds on the list right now, Logan Thompson. Wasn't expecting to see his name there. I guess Allmark won it a couple years ago in a 50-50 tandem. Anyways, it's fun. You can check it out. The odds for all the awards for the NHL, who's going to win the cup. You can bet on basically anything over at DraftKings Sportsbook. And by the way, new DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code THPN. That's code THPN for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ice.
This episode brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can get a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help find you options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like aloe or skins, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and brilliant marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does selling better than Shopify. With Shop Pay, that boosts conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts are going abandoned and way more sales happening. So if you're into growing your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell whatever your customers are scrolling or strolling on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Skins uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/Westwood1. There's one thing that will forever change the way you sleep, and it's the softest 100% organic cotton bedding from Boll & Branch. You'll fall asleep faster, wrapped in the most luxurious comfort. You'll never sleep hot again with airy blankets, cloud-like duvets, and breathable sheets. You'll experience pure comfort on night one and feel your bedding get softer with every wash. Discover the difference with 15% off your first order at bollandbranch.com with code CUMULUS. Exclusions apply. See site for details.
Welcome back, everyone. With that wild amount of news to have between a Tuesday and a Thursday, we've only got a couple hot and cold streaks to finish you off tonight. First off, this one isn't really a hot streak because it's only one game, but keep your eye on Vlad Namestnikov. He had 2 assists in his second game back from an injury. He was hitting quite a bit in the couple games before the injury and in both games back. And he's on the second line with Ehlers and Velarde now that Lowry's hurt week to week. He's got a Friday-Sunday schedule this week and may not have been added given that he's kind of a boring name and was coming back from injury to start the week when people were picking up their Winnipeg streamers. So I would be taking a look at him. Am I overreacting to a 2-assist game here, Shams?
If it was just a 2-assist game, I would be like, who cares? But the big thing is what you said there is that the line shakeup is that they moved Iafallo to be up with Scheifele and Connor, so that gave the spot to have Namestnikov to be with Velarde and Ehlers. So having that second bona fide line mate, that makes me more interested in Namestnikov as more than just a flash in the pan, assuming that holds it all.
I will say, you mention it holding it all. They did go back to the Scheifele, Connor, Velarde line near the end of the game yesterday, and I believe, did they tie it late or did Colorado tie it late? Someone tied it up late, and then the game went into overtime. So I know for part of the third period, they were back to their old lines. But even still, having Ehlers and Perfetti or Ehlers and Iafallo as your wings, you could do worse for a Friday-Sunday off-night streamer. Next up, a cold streak. On Tuesday, the crew talked about Brady Tkachuk being on a very cold streak. Well, I'm going to add Matthew to that list. He has 1 point in his last 5 games, 1 goal in his last 16. His shots have been down. I didn't math out how many, but he's not shooting 3 times a game, that's for sure. The bright side is last game, they bumped him up to play with Barkov and Reinhart, so maybe that'll spark him. I think the team has kind of recognized he's in a slump and is trying to do something about it. But man, have the Tkachuk brothers been frustrating draft picks this year.
The odd thing is that I'm not throwing shade at Barkov, but when you say add him to that line, that should help him out. Well, the funny thing is that both him and Tkachuk have 1 goal in the last 30 days. So he's also in a cold streak. The interesting thing is that Reinhart, no matter what happens, he's going to get his. He has 6 goals in the last 30 days. And the second place in goals is none other than Jesper Boquist. the other Boquist that no one was paying attention to when we were talking about drafting. So we're in a weird situation with then the next is Evan Rodriguez with 4. So it's kind of a weird situation where other than Reinhardt, a lot of the big players are playing cold. So I think this is just one of those situations is that we know he's a good player with Tkachuk. We know Barkov's a good player. I wouldn't be worried too much. And the fact that they're putting them together makes me think that at some point, I just feel like we're going to have a random game where we're just going to score 7 goals as a team and we're going to get into it. So, I'd be avoiding those low ball offers and then just hold on and hope for the best.
Yeah, it's been a long time running that Florida's been a bit frustrating this year. Like you said, it's been almost a month. This is one of those times where I'd be excited for the All-Star Game / Four Nations reset. The problem is a bunch of these players that have gone cold are on their respective Four Nations teams, like Barkov and Tkachuk, and Reinhardt isn't cold, but Reinhardt's there too. So I'm not sure that's going to be the reset that people are hoping for. I still really haven't figured out what that's going to do for fantasy, not getting that rest. I guess it still will only be 3 to 4 games over a 2-week break. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, I'm very frustrated with the Florida Panthers right now. Next up on the hot streaks, we've got a goalie. We don't do goalie hot streaks that often because, all goalies are bad. But Elvis Merzlikins has 5 straight starts with 3 or less goals against, a .927 save percentage, and 3 quality starts over that period too. Like I mentioned before, Columbus is no longer a bottom feeder. Tarasov got absolutely destroyed today. He's given up 5 goals through 2 periods. So they could be adding some value here. If you want Elvis Merzlikins, I would certainly take my chances on Merzlikins over Korpisalo or Allen in the short term, since to call back to earlier. The Blue Jackets do have a bad schedule rest of the season, though, with only 17 games remaining over the final 5 weeks of the fantasy season and only 2 late night starts. So he's not a great third goalie, but if you're someone who's looking for a second goalie, maybe Merzlikins is available to you.
Yeah, and it's not new that the team hasn't been great in general in past years, so they're kind of a weird situation of knowing how much is Merzlikins, how much is the team, but he has had stretches of doing this before, so I'm not too surprised that he's on a streak, but you got to keep in mind that there are going to be situations where he gets blown up, so it's not going to be a situation where, set and forget, but as you said, there are a lot worse options you could do. I'd be fine to ride with him if he's not already grabbed in some of my deeper leagues here.
It's not just the deeper leagues. He's actually only owned in 76% of Cupful leagues, which I think is crazy given that he had both Monday and Wednesday starts this week. They played Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. He got confirmed for the Monday game. You pick him up to get the one game and the guaranteed back-to-back. And that data would not have updated in our tracker yet, as far as I'm aware. So it's not even people who dropped him today. But yeah, I would be looking to add Merzlikins potentially for the long haul if I only have one steady goalie on my team. To finish it off, David Pastrnak has been one of the hottest players in the league, but he's also dragged along Pavel Zacha. Zacha had 7 points in his previous 4 games played before today. He was back on power play 1. He does not have a point today, but still 7 points in 5 games is pretty good. Are you interested in adding Zacha, or have you been burnt by the Pastrnak tagalongs far too many times this season already?
I don't know. I feel like this line is a little bit different, and I feel like while the team has not been, far from expectations, I feel like they're out of just the pits they were earlier in the year, where it felt like, were they ever going to score goals? So I'm fine with Zacha, and don't forget Morgan Geekie has been doing well. He has a goal today to match what he had yesterday, and then on the 18th he had a goal and assist. So I would be interested. Maybe depends on how your roster is. I wouldn't be rushing to drop someone interesting to add a Geekie or a Zacha. But if you have a situation where you could get maybe only 2 games from one of these guys versus 3 or 4, 3 from someone else, I might be tempted to give these guys a shot and then see if this just kind of lasts long. This is one of those situations where maybe it peters out, but being able to play with one of the best players in the world who has been performing really well, I would be interested in keeping a hold of these guys, and then potentially might be a rest of season long hold.
You're right. I may have just buried the lead there, where Morgan Geekie is much more interesting than Pavel Zacha to me. He has 8 points in his last 10. It looks like either 14 or 15 in his last 20. So like he's been chugging along at this complimentary pace for a while now. I actually would consider dropping, anybody who's getting you less than 4 cupful points per game for Geekie. Zacha's more on the streamer tier, and obviously Pasternak is Pasternak. But yeah, those guys are doing what I was hoping Elias Lindholm would do when I drafted him, is kind of how I'm thinking of it, is that Geekie and Zacha have taken that next step, and Lindholm is more playing his middle six role that he fell into when things didn't work out. With that concludes our show. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed our show, please consider joining the Keeping Karlsson Patreon group at keepingkarlsson.com/patron, where super supporters receive ad-free episodes, and you can interact with Brian, Elon, the Short Shifts crew, and hundreds of other talented fantasy managers on our active Discord server. Please check out GameDayTweets.com to get all the best info from Twitter without having to go through the rest of Twitter. We should look into getting a Blue Sky up. I think we have one for Short Shifts, but Game Day Tweets might be there because of the beat writers. Visit that site and the other great sites we use to research our episodes with at Yahoo, Frozen Tools, and Natural Stat Trick. Our intro and outro music was created by Pat Roach. Until we see you next time, play smart and keep your shifts short.